Welcome back, everybody. So in this exercise, we are creating ellipses. So this is step number 5, creating ellipses. Your note side is actually going to look slightly different than your final, which is a little bit different than the other exercises, and I'll kind of explain why. So for your notes today, we're going to be creating 2 ellipses, but one of them is going to have a little more information so that when you do your final, which is going to look like this, it'll make more sense and you'll have more guidelines. So that is why we are doing the notes this way. So let's go ahead and begin. You need a blank sheet of paper for our notes today. And we're gonna start off by labeling it with your first name, your last name, whatever period you're in, and this will be notes number 5. So first name, last name, period, notes number 5. We are gonna start it off by drawing a horizontal line going through the middle of your sheet. Again, don't forget to line up your triangle with the edge of your paper. And we're gonna draw that horizontal line going through the middle of the paper, like so. And then go ahead and put the vanishing point right smack dab in the middle there. And what we're gonna do is we are going to start off by drawing the ellipse, which is a foreshortened circle drawn in perspective, down here on the bottom right-hand side. So we're gonna start off by making more of a square box. And the reason why you want a squarish box is so it looks more circular. So I'm gonna go ahead and start off by drawing 2 vertical lines. Like that. Make sure you line up your triangle with the edge of your paper. And then when you try to do your 2 horizontal lines, make sure that you try to keep your box somewhat square. And don't forget to line up your triangle with the edge of your paper just to ensure those nice straight lines. So I am going to do my other horizontal, but I'm going to kind of eyeball it and make it as square as possible. Squares are going to be a lot easier on you for this activity. So nice square face just like this, and erase your excess lines. For this activity, you definitely want to draw light. I'm only drawing dark so that you can see what we're doing. All right, so the next step is to take all of the points to the vanishing point. So I'm going to take this point here all the way to the vanishing point, this point here all the way to the vanishing point, and the last one all the way to the vanishing point. So I took all 3 of the closest points to the vanishing point, and now we're going to cut off our box, and I'm intentionally going to make it a really long box so that it is easier to draw your ellipse. So I'm going to go ahead and to cut off my box on this side, I want a vertical line, so I want a vertical cut. So make sure you line up your triangle with the edge of your paper. And then I want a horizontal cut on the other side. So again, line up your triangle with the edge of your paper. If your lines look crooked, it's because you did not line up your triangle with the edge of your paper. Now we're going to go ahead and erase our excess lines. Again, try to draw as light as possible, especially for this activity. Just like that. Now, the first thing that we're going to do here is we are going to kind of go in and separate out that face. So let me see if I can zoom in here so you can see what I'm doing. So again, if you have any excess lines, just erase them. And we are going to cut into this face and draw some notes. So I'm going to take my triangle and connect the front corners So I'm taking my triangle, lining up the corners, just like that. And I'm gonna do the opposite side. So I'm gonna connect the corners, draw a line, just like that. Now where X marks the spot, I am gonna line up my triangle with the edge of my paper and draw a vertical line where X marks the spot, and then a horizontal line where X marks the spot. Again, make sure you're lining up your triangle with the edge of your paper, just like that. If for some reason yours is slightly off, like mine's slightly off, it's not gonna be a huge deal. What you really need these separation lines for is for the north, south, east, and west. So go ahead and make those little note dots. That's gonna tell us where our ellipse, our foreshortened circle, is going to end up going. So go ahead and take a moment to do that. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna start to sketch in our ellipse. And the easiest way to do this is section by section. So if you notice, my pencil is facing outward, and I'm just lightly, very, very lightly, the little parts of my ellipse are going to be barely touching north, south, east, and west. If it helps, go ahead and draw just little tiny arcs, little tiny happy faces, sad faces, right where north, south, east, and west are. Just like that. So little tiny arcs, that's where it's barely gonna touch. And then you can draw in your ellipse. So the pencil should face going away from the center, and just lightly make little rainbows connecting those arches together. So now I'm gonna do this quadrant. I make it look easy because I've had a lot of practice. You might have to try a couple times. So really try to fill that space, make it nice and round, and it should only be touching on north, south, east, and west. If you're right-handed, you're probably only gonna be able to get that arc. If you're left-handed, yours probably looks opposite of mine. So the best solution to that is just rotate your paper. So I rotated my paper, and I'm just going in and I'm lightly, very, very lightly sketching out a nice rainbow shape or an arc. I'm filling that space up. Just like that. And again, I rotated my paper so that my pencil faced away from the center. I'm gonna have better drawing and better leverage if I rotate my paper. Okay, so that's what it looks like. Again, I made it look easy. You're gonna have to try a couple times to get the hang of it. So whatever we do to the front side, we're gonna do to the back side now, because the back side is still like a square shape. We wanna make it kind of more smooth and curved. So we gotta figure out where the back of the box is. And to do that, we're gonna write some notes. Where this corner is, you're going to need a vertical. And where this corner is, and I put little arrows on here so it's easy to find, we're gonna put a horizontal. Okay. Now to do that, we need our triangle. So line up your triangle with the edge of your paper. And again, where I pointed those places out, I'm gonna have you draw a dotted line. And it really honestly doesn't matter if you're drawing a solid or a dotted line. I just like a dotted line because I know I'm eventually gonna have to erase it anyways. So nice dotted vertical line there. Line up my triangle with the edge of my paper. And now I'm gonna do a vertical dotted line. Again, you need to draw light. I'm only drawing dark so that you can see what I am doing. What you can do is erase this line that's currently going through your shape, because that's a little distracting, a little confusing. So you can just erase that right now. And we're going to do the same exact thing that we did to the front. So we're going to connect the diagonals. It doesn't matter if it is a solid line or a dotted line. So connect the diagonals using your triangle. And where X marks the spot, you need a vertical line. So line up your triangle with the edge of your paper and draw your vertical line. And then we need a horizontal line. So again, line up your triangle with the edge of your paper and draw a horizontal line, just like that. All right, where you have north, south, east, and west, that's where your little arcs of your ellipse that are barely gonna touch. So again, if it's helpful, I draw just those little tiny baby arcs where north, south, east, and west is. If you're having trouble making those arcs, rotate your paper. I'm just kind of rotating my body around my paper as I draw these. And then I personally feel like the smaller ones are easier, so I'm just filling that shape with a nice arc or a nice rainbow shape. It's kind of like playing connect the dots, but with a curved line. And then at some point, if you need to, and I strongly encourage you to, especially if you're a beginner, rotate your paper to create the rest of those arcs. And if your pencil's facing away from the center, you're gonna get better curves. Just like that. So this last part here can be tricky for some people. So this is what you need to do. You need to take your triangle, and what you need to do here is very carefully line up the edges of your ellipses with the vanishing point. So you want to try to get all three lined up as close as possible, and you want to draw a line connecting your two ellipses. They might not be 100% perfect, but try to get it the best you can, just like this. Okay? And then whatever you do the bottom, you got to do the top. So I'm trying to line up the tops of my ellipses with my vanishing point, and I'm going to draw a line connecting the two together, just like that. Now that's a lot of lines. Hopefully you drew light. If you didn't, make sure you drew light on your final copy. So now what we're going to do is we are going to make this. So we have to do a lot of erasing. So go ahead and you can start erasing all the things that you did. The second one, we're gonna put the notes back in, so don't worry. So I'm erasing everything. Hopefully you drew nice and light. So I'm going all the way around. There's no good place to start with this. You can kind of just pick an area and start erasing. Having a visual also helps to know what you need to erase and what you can and cannot erase. So I'm just taking my time. I'm erasing this. So I erased all the way outside here of my ellipse. And because this is a tutorial, I'm not going to spend too much time cleaning this up, but on your final, you're definitely going to spend a lot more time doing that. I'm going to go ahead and erase the insides here. And because my ellipse is a solid object today, I'm going to go ahead and make this very easy on you, and you can erase this back part. And you're probably wondering, okay, well, why did we do all that back stuff if we're just going to erase all of it? It's mainly to get that back curve of your ellipse. If you accidentally erase a little too much, you can sketch it back in just a little bit. And then I'm going to erase all these little front lines that we drew. And that is why it's super important to draw light for this one, because there's lots of erasing involved. we have one ellipse down. Let's go ahead and do the one up here. This time I'm gonna go a little bit faster. So we wanna start off with 2 vertical lines. So make sure you line up your triangle with the edge of your paper. Just like that. And it's really obvious if you don't line up your triangle, especially at this stage where you have to have a lot of straight lines. Then I need 2 horizontal lines. So I'm going to line my triangle up with the edge of my paper. And when I do that second horizontal line, I'm really gonna eyeball it to make sure that it's as square as possible. If you wanted to challenge yourself with a more rectangular front face, your ellipse is gonna appear more oval in shape. So that's square-ish. Erase your excess if you have it. And then I'm gonna take all 3 points to the vanishing point. So I'm gonna take this point to the vanishing point, this point to the vanishing point. And again, this takes no drawing skill whatsoever. We're just drawing a box right now. So it should be easy as long as you take your time and you're accurate. Now I'm gonna cut off my box, but again, I kind of want a long box. If you create a short box, it gets really complicated as far as the boxes are usually on top of each other, and it's really hard to figure out what line's what. So I'm cutting off my box now. And again, don't forget when you're doing your horizontal and vertical lines, make sure you line up your triangle with the edge of your paper, just like that. And then go ahead and erase your excess lines. All right, now we're gonna start to cut up our front face. So you want to connect your diagonals. And this one, we're not gonna erase all of our notes so that you have them for your final copy. All right, connect your diagonals. And then where X marks the spot, you are going to be drawing in a vertical line and a horizontal line. Make sure you're lining your triangle up. All right, and then make little dots where north, south, and east and west are. That's where our arcs are gonna be. I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in so you can see this a little bit better. And I always start off by making little tiny baby arcs, little happy, sad faces, right where those north, south, east, west things are. Just like that. Now I'm gonna try to sketch in my ellipse. So the tip of my pencil is facing away from the center. I'm drawing a big like rainbow, and I want them nice and round, no flat football shapes, nice round arc. I'm gonna do one section at a time, one quadrant at a time. Nice and round. If you make a mistake, you can just erase it. And then if it gets difficult for you to draw, just rotate your paper. And you might not get this on the first try. It does take a little practice. Okay, now rotate it back. Now we have the front side done. We're gonna go ahead and do the back side. So for our notes, this is where we're gonna need a horizontal. And this point here, oh sorry, I made a mistake. This point here, you're gonna need a vertical, and right here, we're gonna need a horizontal. So I'm going to start off with my vertical. So where that little corner point is, I'm going to line my triangle up with the edge of my paper. And I'm just going to do a little dotted line here. It's just easier for me to distinguish from the box. And then I'm going to do a horizontal dotted line here. Again, make sure you're lining up your triangle with the edge of your paper. If you noticed, I made my box just a little bit shorter than last time, and you can easily see why if you make your box too short, how these two can be on top of each other. And then I'm going to erase my line going through the middle of my square shape. And now we're going to go ahead and divide that shape up. So we're going to start off by connecting the diagonals. Like that. So connect your diagonals. And then where X marks the spot, you're going to need a vertical and a horizontal line. So again, make sure your triangle is lined up with the edge of your paper. And draw your vertical. And then again, line up your triangle with the edge of your paper. And draw your horizontal. Just like that. Now where you have north, south, east, and west, you're going to create those little arcs, just barely touching those little areas. So just little tiny arcs. And then we're going to connect those arcs. So pencil facing away from the center. Try to fill that space by sketching in a rainbow shape. If you mess up, you can just erase it and try again. If yours is looking like a deflated ball, you probably just need to round it out a little bit more. Now I'm going to go ahead and rotate my paper so that it's easier for me to draw those arc shapes. Again, it's easier to draw those arc shapes if your pencil's facing outward, so out from the center. Just like that. So I'm going to rotate it back, and now we got to connect the ellipses together. So I'm going to take my triangle, and I'm going to connect the bottoms of these ellipses with my vanishing point. So I'm trying to get it the best I can, the closest I can. And I'm gonna draw those two together, just like that. Now if it's too far on the inside or too far on the outside, just erase it and then try again. So now I'm gonna do the top. So I'm gonna connect the top parts of my ellipses with the vanishing point the best I can. Just like that. Now again, if it's off a little bit, you might have to just draw in your stuff a little bit better, or don't be afraid to erase like I messed up and then try again. Like I just didn't like the way that it looked. So I'm gonna try again. Oh, that's so much better. Okay, now you can leave this one alone because that's for your notes. So your notes should look like this. When you do your final, it's gonna look a little bit different. Your final is going to look like this. So 2 ellipses, one above, one below, and they're all erased. Make sure you're drawing light because I don't want to see lines inside your lips. So to do your final, to label it, it's first name, last name, whatever your period number is, and then this is final number 5. And again, for this assignment, you need to create 1 ellipse above, one ellipse below the horizon, and make sure that you erase all your lines. In your notes, you had lines on here just to guide you and to help you along the way. On your final, it's gonna look like this. So good luck. If you have any questions at all, feel free to email me.